Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the METUS Tech Show. Today, we're going to talk with Anthony Belokas about the intelli-Heat. But first, the METUS Minute. Bryn?
Thanks, Paul. This week's METUS Minute is on solenoid valves. A solenoid valve is an electronically controlled device that acts as an on or off switch for refrigerant flow. They are crucial for controlling refrigerant flow in various stages of the HVAC cycle, including cooling, defrosting, and preventing refrigerant migration. A solenoid valve consists of a coil of wire, the solenoid, that when energized with electricity creates a magnetic field. This magnetic field attracts a movable core, either a plunger or an armature. The movement of the plunger opens and closes an orifice or port in the valve body, allowing or preventing fluid flow. Solenoid valves can be designed to be normally open, where it is open when de-energized, or normally closed, where it is closed when de-energized. On Mitsubishi equipment, most solenoid valves are normally closed. In an R2 branch controller, solenoid valves A, B, and C control flow of refrigerant to the indoor units. A and C energize in cooling, while only B energizes in heating. At the outdoor unit, solenoid valve SV1 or 1A will energize on startup, opening a path directly to the suction line to aid in a soft start. It will also energize to protect the compressor in the event the head pressure starts to get too high. All solenoid valves will require line voltage, and proper resistance readings can be found in the unit-specific service manual for diagnosing. Thank you for listening to this week's METUS Minute. Now let's start the show.
The METUS Tech Show.
Welcome to the METUS Tech Show, a show for HVAC professionals by HVAC professionals.
I like how you guys bounce back and forth between heat pump talk and food talk.
The METUS Tech Show.
Mitsubishi.
All right, so Anthony, tell me about this. What was it called?
A steak hibarito.
Hibarito. I need to know more, please.
So in Chicago, we have a pretty diverse background of a lot of different people. And in the Puerto Rican community, they have a sandwich called a steak hibarito. And it consists of plantain bread with oil on top and garlic on the top, with a skirt steak with cheese, lettuce, tomato, and sometimes onion. And it's served with a dish of Puerto Rican rice, which is like a brown rice with meat inside of it. It's really good.
Isn't that called like a dirty rice, they call it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Dirty rice, I've only heard like in, Louisiana and New Orleans, I think.
All right.
I don't know, but it's really
But what
good.
kind of bread did you say?
It's fried plantain bread.
Plantain bread?
Plantain bread, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That sounds
That sounds really
It's
good.
really good.
Now, is it pressed?
It's pressed.
All
Yep.
right. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
almost like a Cubano, but
Yeah.
So-
not quite.
So we're going to be in Chicago in a couple of months. Actually, next month, right?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know where to go.
Yeah. Hopefully I can make that trip. So that reminds me of a now Portuguese restaurant in Fall River called the Caravella. So we used to stop there. I used to stop there in my service van and get a $5 steak sandwich that was about a foot and a half long, and with a side of fries, $5, and it's incredible. It was a toasted piece of bread, big piece of thin steak in there. They also call it a bifana with red hot peppers on top, and some garlic.
No onions.
And no onions on that one.
Oh, wow.
Why you getting on my case with onions? I like onions, man. But anyway, yeah, $5 to get you. And that was back then. So I'm probably thinking about $10-15. Yeah. I'm going back like 25 years ago. So but, yeah.
you texted me a picture this weekend of that French onion chicken. My phone still smells like onions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Did you see it bubbling? There was a
Yeah,
video.
yeah, that was good.
That was all animated. Yeah, it was good. My kids were all excited.
It's delicious.
But yeah, that sounds great. So what other eats in Chicago should we look for?
Oh, so it depends what you like. Obviously, we're known for pizza.
Yeah.
So pizza's a big one.
So
for
wait
us.
a minute, Giordano's or Lou Malnati's?
Man, guys, that's a tough question. That's the $1 million question, right? Depends on what deep dish you like better. But I prefer the local neighborhood mom and pop places.
Yeah.
Those are always better for me because it's just a little bit different flavor, different twist, different taste. But pizza's always really good. Our beef sandwiches I know a lot of different states don't have an Italian beef sandwich, which is really good.
I've never had one in Chicago. I never thought to have one.
We got to grab a beef
like shaved
sandwich.
roast beef.
Shaved.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And then you got to get it wet. And if you're from
Yes.
Chicago, you know what that means.
Yes.
You dip it
All right, like a French dip.
like a French dip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good. See, already I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And we're at the National Sales Conference. This means that every hour and a half we're going to be fed.
Hey, we got the name right.
We did?
We always have a hard time getting the name right at these conferences, like the Diamond something.
Okay.
But no, yeah, you got it right. National Sales Conference.
And what city are we in?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay.
So we talked about this a couple episodes back, a few episodes, a couple dozen episodes maybe.
I got to get me some gooey butter cake. That's on my list.
Gooey
That's
butter
the number one
cake.
thing I
Yeah.
want.
You were talking about
known
the
for barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, which has piqued my interest. I'm gonna
We'll see what
check
comes
this out.
Yeah.
Go for a walk and see if there's any local Michelin rated barbecue places in the area. So
We went from $5 sandwiches to Michelin rated restaurants.
there's actually
That was quick.
I found out there's a barbecue, a mom and pop barbecue place in Houston that got a Michelin star or
Really?
Michelin rating, which is unusual for barbecue.
Now, what does a tire company know about food?
There's a big story about it. I don't even know.
I guess it was like some catalog that they had, right? Where
yeah,
it was
yeah.
basically like places that are worth traveling to, and that was the whole thing. Is like you know,
Right.
1 star is worth like a certain amount of hour car ride, and then as you add stars, it's worth the further car
Does
ride. as a whole.
Goodyear have a rating system for food too?
I don't know.
No,
No, I don't
think so.
All right.
No, just
Never
Michelin.
heard of Goodyear stars.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Gordon,
I heard of Blimp.
Gordon Ramsay. He's got the Michelin star restaurants.
I can bring it around to the Goodyear Blimp and then Blimpy's subs.
There you go.
Okay.
Full circle.
Anyway, welcome everybody to the METUS Tech Show. My name is Paul Shavs. Joining me today on the road in St. Louis is Bryn Raptor. Bryn, say hi.
Hello.
Steve. Hey. Yeah, he's there. And a special guest, Anthony Belokas from the Chicago area, if you couldn't figure it out. Anthony, tell us who you are and what you do for Mitsubishi.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me. Again, Anthony Belokas, Regional Sales Manager out of the Chicago market. We are broadcasting live in St. Louis, and excited to be part of the broadcast this episode.
And by live, you mean we're just talking it together, and then we're going to edit the snot out of this later.
It's edited live.
Yes.
So, but yeah, you got, we've talked a lot over the years, Anthony, and it's funny how we actually met and started talking was because of the intelli-Heat A-coil. But I want to talk about your HVAC experience because there are a lot of salespeople in this business that are phenomenal, but they don't have that service truck installation experience, and you have some of that. How did that start?
We'll be right back. Hey, listeners, if you like the METUS Tech Show, you should check out our YouTube channel called the METUS Training Network. That's METUS Training Network. Head on over to the METUS Training Network for tons of videos and programming made for HVAC professionals just like you. We've got technical training tips, HVAC program updates, and episodes of our new HVAC talk show called The Comfort Zone. Of course, you also get to catch up on more episodes of the METUS Tech Show as well. Head on over to YouTube and subscribe to the METUS Training Network today. Now, back to the METUS Tech Show.
Yeah, so I was 18 years old, didn't know where I wanted to go in my career and what I wanted to do. Ultimately, I wanted to be a fireman. So I actually went to school to become a paramedic, and I did that for a couple years. And I had an opportunity with a company to start doing heating and cooling, doing new construction in Chicago. And I said, hey, I got plenty of time off as a paramedic. You only work 24 on, 40 off. So I started working and unloading trucks and putting in sheet metal in brand new homes and sweeping the floors. And next thing I know, I'm doing the installations. And next thing I know, I'm laying out the entire house on my own. And I ultimately ended up being in a service truck in the local market. And then I ended up doing installation, fell in love with the entire industry, and went to a mechanical contractor for a handful of years and became a territory manager. And then ultimately got to Mitsubishi, where I really wanted to go. And I've been here now for 8 years. So
Nice. So a lot of your installs, what do they consist of? Furnaces, boilers in the Chicago area?
So in Chicago, we did a lot of furnaces, a lot of boilers, from hot water, gas to steam. So we did a lot of steam when I was there, which is really fun because I enjoy doing things that are different.
Yep.
Furnace every single day got really bored and really tiring. I like doing different things. Even got into snow melt, hot water pipe systems for radiant heat, unit heaters, Space Pack, Unico, Mitsubishi. We did everything that you can think of when it comes to residential.
Excellent.
Yeah, I didn't know actually that steam was big in the Chicago area because it's big up in the Boston area. All these old buildings. It's a lost art. There's a lot of people. Most people who know a lot about steam are getting retirement age and beyond.
Yep.
It's tough to find somebody who knows steam.
Yeah, that's always what drove me, though, is I always liked doing things that were different, including Mitsubishi. Like, if you gave me a job every single day of doing a furnace and AC, a full boat change out, that got boring to me. I really wanted to take on the different challenge of whether it's Mitsubishi or it's, Spaceback Unico or it's zoning systems or snow melt. Like, give me something different to go do because that always piqued my interest in learning something new.
Now, I know with me, going back into the 90s, when mini splits first came out, they were basically just a relay turning a compressor on. It was just a contactor-driven mini split. And I even installed some mini splits that had a 24-volt feed to the indoor unit.
Wow.
Easy install. You run a thermostat wire to the indoor unit. That was probably not the most efficient thing in the world. But what was the first mini split that you installed?
It's funny how you remember your first, right? So it was Oak Park, Illinois. I'll never forget it. And it was a bungalow. So typical Chicago bungalow with second story that was converted from an attic to a living space. And in these bungalows, you have a 4-foot knee wall. And then you have your walls that go up on a 45-degree angle. And so we did 2 single zone floor mount units inside that application, inside that house. And at the time, I don't think we were supposed to do single zone floor mount units, but we did.
Yeah, well, it's the right application for a knee wall.
Right.
That's for sure. I thought you were going to say you put a wall unit in there, and I was like, ooh.
No. I worked for a good, reputable company.
That's awesome. Yeah.
The first one I ever did was actually really funny because it was a oil and gas company mostly. They did very, very little AC. And so I was probably working at that company for like 2 weeks, and they're like, yeah, why don't you go help with the installation? So I went there, and the guy that was showing me the ropes was like, I put a fair amount of these in. I've got them down pretty good. And so he mounts the wall bracket, he drills his hole, and then he mounts the head. And there's about, a little crescent moon of an opening. Right. So he mismeasured his opening. So that was my introduction. Was like, hey, you got to be careful with that hole where you drill it through for those wall mounts.
Yeah. My first one was actually a Mitsubishi in Wayland, Massachusetts, and this guy called us up. We never heard of him. He called us up and says, I've done my research. Every time I ask somebody for a good HVAC contractor, they mention you. And I've also done my research, and I want this mini split. And we had never heard of it. We didn't know about it. We didn't know about mini splits at all. That was me and my brother. We found, after calling around, we found a distributor in New Hampshire. They sent me a line set and 2 boxes. And I'm sitting there like, this is new to me. I'm used to put, give me a coil, put it on a furnace, And I sat there and I'm trying to read the instructions. I had no idea where to begin. And start to finish was 8 hours. I was there. I read everything. I didn't know what I was doing. And then now if it takes you 8 hours to do a 1-to-1 mini split, you got a problem now. But
it's a learning curve.
Yeah,
it's 3-4 hours.
Once you do one, you can knock it out.
But that guy did his research, and this was before the days of the internet. And that started this wave because he started telling people. And then I'd be in a house, and they go, they got a cold spot, or I got a 3-season porch, or I got this. I go, you know what? I installed this Mitsubishi thing for this guy, and he loves it. And then that just became a thing. The day I had an interview for Mitsubishi to come work here, my brother's company installed 17 1-to-1 systems as a company in one day.
Wow.
So it was really a thing. And that
2
was
guys?
Yeah, right,
probably.
Yeah, ductless was the answer in the early 90s. Especially, I'm from New Bedford, Massachusetts, and it's all historic homes.
Right.
It's all horsehair plaster. Now, I'll never forget cutting an 8x8 grill into a ceiling with a Sawzall, and half the ceiling came down in this house. It was the most horrifying day of my life.
You're just slapping the lid,
Yeah,
the little wood slabs.
and so if you've never experienced that, it's terrifying. And
You know, in the
from
movie,
that day on, my boss was like, "That's it. We're drilling a 3-inch hole in the side and just putting a wall unit in." Also, I don't know if you remember space packs.
Yeah.
Space packs
High
with the small
velocity.
3-inch, 4-inch. They were fantastic for an old historic home.
you know, in the movie Caddyshack, when the guy gets struck by lightning and Bill Murray just slinks away.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you wanted to do when the ceiling comes
pretty
down. That's
much.
how you leave the job.
I really wanted to quit my job right on the spot. I knew I was in trouble, and but no, it's live and learn.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, it's funny you say that because that's happened to us in Chicago so many times. we were doing space pack and Unico jobs, and the company I worked for, we did probably 5 to 6 dozen a year. Like we did quite a bit of them, and we would have to use either the microwave dish, for a hole saw, or some of my guys would like to use the basketball. They'd cut the basketball in half, put the hole saw through it, and when you drill through the ceiling, then it all comes down into the dust in there,
Yeah.
But one time I had a guy do that, and he took down half the ceiling in a really, really historic old home in Oak Park, and it caused a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And so when we finally figured out that Mitsubishi was a better solution, and we only had to cut a 3-inch hole exteriorly, not having to go up into the ceiling, it's a lot easier of a hole to cut. And instead of doing, I think it was eight ports a ton for space pack and Unico, you only have to do three 3-inch holes that are a ton apiece, and you still get your 3 tons out of the system, and it's just a whole lot of it easier of an installation.
But you learn these things over the years. The Sawzall's not the best tool for horsehair plaster. Maybe a jigsaw, and I'm sure I've heard of techs using different blades, different tools for that type of application. And even like vinyl siding, if you drill a hole for a line set and it's cold out,
Oh, in the wintertime it cracks.
you run it in reverse.
You-
Right?
yeah,
You got to
and-
run it in reverse, and you don't break the cold the vinyl.
And-
that is
and put
Happens
duct
all the
tape
time.
on it. The duct tape helps it from doing
Oh,
that too.
right.
Both
yeah,
of them. I used to do both.
Masking tape, duct tape. Yeah, great tips. And I'm sure, and if any of our listeners have better ideas that have been out of the field for a while, email us.
What are you doing now?
Yeah, fan mail. There's a bunch of tools out there. But Anthony, I want to talk about your intelli-Heat install that you recently did, and you were like super excited about installing this thing.
And this is your own house, right?
This is my own house, yes.
Yeah.
So I can tell you guys, in the Chicago market, I've been pushing this intelli-Heat 8 coil now for quite some time, and I have a lot of contractors that are actively proposing it and installing this product in our market. And so I really wanted one in my own house, and I was due for a system upgrade. And so I installed mine December 30th so I can get my tax credit. And I put in a PUZ 36 standard heat pump outdoor unit with a PAA 36 coil. And I replaced my furnace. I put in a 80,000 BTU 2-stage variable speed furnace. So my entire system now is brand new. Nice. But we did that exactly on December 30th. And if you're in the Chicago market, it's cold. It's cold in December and January. So, we did that installation right before the end of the year.
And which controllers did you choose?
So I currently have the Kumo Cloud and MHK2.
Nice.
So I really wanted to have the feel of a Kumo Cloud because I know there's been some questions and concerns from some people on the Kumo Cloud. And recently I've been able to beta test the new app. So I've been able to have the Comfort app on my phone and be able to kind of play with that and see how the new app is going to work with our system. And so far I can say it's been really good.
Yeah. So we have a lot of our METUS employees that got the beta version. They're testing it, they're vetting it, they're working out all the kinks out of it, and trying to make it just a better app.
So you got a standard non-hyperheat PUZ,
Correct.
right? So I'm wondering how often that furnace is coming on. What are you seeing for your gas bills?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I started off at 32 degrees on my set point, and I let it run for a little bit, and I was told I can probably go a little bit lower and kind of see what happens with the unit. So I dropped the set point down to 17. But in January, it was cold. We were 0, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees. It was cold. My furnace would kick on every once in a while, like at nighttime. My wife likes to set the thermostat back a little bit, right? And so we kind of talk about heat pumps not doing that, but she likes to sleep with it a little bit colder in the house. And so in the mornings, every once in a while, I would see the furnace kick on. My gas bills pretty much almost were eliminated. I mean, I'm paying very, very, very minimal on my gas bill. My electric bill did go up a little bit, but that was kind of expected. I kind of understood. Cumulatively, when I look at both of my gas and my electric bill, it ultimately was less than it was last year, which was good. But the electric bill did go up. But I'm really excited to see what the system does in the summertime. Yeah. And now I have a heat pump cooling my house as opposed to a standard 13-seer or maybe a 10-seer. I don't remember what I had. It was a Train XR13, so maybe 13.
That's a 13
R22.
Sure. Yeah,
that's what I replaced.
R22.
Yeah, it's old.
Geez,
About 20 years old.
Yeah, so we released the PAA intelli-Heat A coil probably 3 or 4 years ago now. Time flies.
Yeah, I was going to say like it's been a few months, but
yeah, it's been a few years already. And when it first came out, we seen some issues in the field, but a lot of them were install related, and it was wiring. When I go to Swanee and talk to the TSA, the tech support people, I would ask them, what kind of calls are you getting on the intelli-Heat? And a lot of them, it shocked me. It was a lot of basic thermostat wiring mistakes. Just going back to basics, red to red,
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So you've got an MHK2, which is a Mitsubishi controller, but you're controlling a gas furnace with it. Mm-hmm. So how does that work? How do we make that work?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to Steve really quick. I would say, and my Chicago contractors are sick and tired of hearing me say this, but I'm just going to say it for all the METUS podcast show. Whenever I do my training classes, I relate the coil no different than when I was in the field and we went from 80% efficient furnaces to 95% efficient furnaces.
Yeah.
That's how I look at this, right? The problem was when we introduced those new furnaces, the manufacturers didn't come out and train us. So I can't tell you how many times I went out there and I installed a brand new 95% efficient furnace. Nobody told me about the PVC pipes can't be right next to each other. Nobody told me to put an elbow on them. Nobody told me that if I have a really bad, angled or curved floor in the basement, that I need to make sure this gets leveled because of the furnace. The furnace has the drain on it.
Yeah.
And we got nothing but callback after callback after callback because the PVC pipes weren't installed properly and the installation wasn't done right. So I relate this back to that, right? Like it's a new technology. It's a new installation. It's not S1, S2, S3 and ground and you're done like all of our other systems are. And it is there's a little bit more wiring, and the wiring is different depending if you have a Mitsubishi controller versus if you have a, third party controller. So it is a little bit different. And so, some cheat sheets are helpful nowadays that we've Steve, you put out a nice cheat sheet, right? So those cheat sheets have really been a good guide for the contractors. Right. But there was definitely that learning curve when we were doing that. And I just relate that learning curve back to 80 to 95% efficient furnaces.
Yeah.
That's what it feels
That's
like.
a good analogy.
Yeah, it is. But if you haven't seen the intelli-Heat, it's basically your standard cased coil, and we give you a control box. And that control box has all your low voltage wiring from the control box to the furnace. And it's your basic RW common Y1, Y2, W1, W2, green, and you're just wiring that to the furnace.
So that box has a furnace connection, right? And then it must also have a connection for the controller.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's got the CN105 on it. If you're using an MHK2 or Kuma Cloud or whatever you're using.
Also have TB15 for wired controllers.
Yeah.
So your Par 40, your Par 42, your Simple MA, your Touch MA, all those controllers can also adapt to that control box. Yep. And then if you're using a third-party thermostat, maybe a Nest, maybe an Ecobee, maybe just a basic Robert Shaw thermostat, you can use the thermostat interface, the PAC 445. You can't use the PAC 444, a previous version. You can use the new one because it comes with a special harness.
The way I've always explained it to contractors who are trying to figure out the control box, because in the end of the day, the intelli-Heat coil is just a coil with 2 thermistors on it. Everything's really happening at that control box. And the way I explain it is we've got to take our S1, S2, S3, that communication line, and 24-volt relay, and we need to translate them. So when we get an S2, S3 call from our MHK2 that says, I want heat, that control box has to take in that information, look at the outside temperature, and determine, do I need to send 24 volts down and translate this language, or can I run my heat pump? And so it's really just translating that language between 24-volt relay to kick on my fan and running the heat pump with that S2, S3 communication. It's just one big translator. And then as far as the wiring side goes, think of it like a zoning board or like your end switch, right? Your
Right.
control box is the end switch. It's going to send wiring. You're going to have a terminal block, and that's your end switch wires to go down to your furnace to kick on things like the actual gas or at least the fan.
Right.
Yep.
Right, now, let's go back and talk about, because you mentioned a set point. You said you had it set for 32 and then you change it to 17. Let's explain what that set point is.
So that's the economic balance point. Right. You originally set it for 32 degrees, Anthony, and then you dropped it to 17. And you can even drop it lower than that, I believe, to 9 degrees.
Yes.
If you have a hyperheat outdoor unit, you can safely go down that low.
So that means that after whatever temperature you set it for, when it reaches that temperature, it uses the fossil fuel heat instead of the heat pump?
Yes, not immediately. So it's still going to use CN24 logic. So what it's going to do is it's going to do just like any of our indoor units do for CN24 backup heat. It's going to look and see if the heat pump by itself can raise the temperature a certain amount of degrees in a certain amount of time. And if it can't, then the furnace is engaged. So if the heat pump can keep up, it's going to keep going, which sounds like what it's doing at your house.
Yeah, keeps on running.
Yep.
My outdoor unit happens to be somewhat close to my kitchen window. And so, the HVAC geek in me, I'm like, is that thing running?
Yeah,
Because you can't hear, right? So I open up the window. And he's like, what are you doing? It's 5 degrees outside. And I'm like, I want to see if the heat pump's on. And I can kind of hear it's right there. It's just spinning. It's on. It's running. I'm like, oh, beautiful. And then I go downstairs and I look and see if the flames are on in the furnace. No flames. I'm like, wonderful.
I have an air-to-air heat pump in my house that's like 22, 23, maybe 25 years old. It's a Train XI13, and the condenser is right outside my window, my bedroom window. I told my wife I'm going to replace it with a hyperheat PUZ and a PVA, and I told her the good thing about it is when that kicks on in the middle of the night, you won't hear it, and you'll never guess. She complained. She goes, what do you mean I'm not going to hear it? I want to hear it. I like to know that it's coming on.
Yeah.
I go, you know how you can tell it's on when you're warm? Yeah. If you're warm, it's on. Because I need to know the heat's running. So she needs to know the heat's running so she can decide if she's cold or not.
What you need to do is put a third-party thermostat in, so she'll hear the relay click in the thermostat, and she'll know it's running.
I'll put a thermostat in the bedroom so you control your own. I won't connect any wires to it. I'll just put it there.
Well, funny story. So weather's switching now in Chicago. It was a little chilly today, but 72, 73 yesterday. My wife was outside doing a little bit of yard work, and she walks by the outdoor unit, and the fans they're spinning. Right? And she's like, I think that thing's broke. And I'm like, why do you think it's broke? She's like, it's spinning, but it's not making any noise. And I'm like, no, that's how it's supposed. That's what it's supposed to do.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But you talk about that. That's funny. But we used to get calls like that. I don't think my heat pump's working. What do you mean? Are you comfortable? It goes, yeah, but it's not making any noise. I don't hear it come on. I go, that's okay. It's a good thing.
Yeah. It's like if you switch out a space vac in Unico and you put in a Mitsubishi system, these people don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Those units are so loud and so and
High velocity.
They shake the floor or the ceiling depending where you put them in.
Yep.
Hey, my heat pump's not working because my lights don't dim when it comes on.
Yeah. The early days of heat pumps where you'd have to go back about 2 months after the install to put it back on the pad because it started to vibrate off.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
But going back to, as an installer, there are some things that I need to look for when I'm commissioning the PAA coil, just like you would do with any A coil system, just like you would do with any furnace on its own. Let's just say just a furnace by itself, no AC. What do you have to do when you replace someone's furnace in their home? You check the airflow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So you have to check the
Ductwork.
airflow with the intelli-Heat. We're looking for 400 CFM per ton. No different than any other system. So it's up to the installing contractor to make sure that he adjusts the speed, the static pressure of that furnace, of that fan in that furnace to make sure that you're pushing that air.
Yeah, so that 400 CFM per ton is for downflow, and then your 350 CFM.
350 for, yes.
Now, as far as checking for that, too, it's not like, some of our other equipment like an SVZ where you're just checking supply and return. We want 350 CFM to that coil. So where you're actually taking that measurement is going to be different, too. But ductwork in general, you got to make sure that it's squared away. It is a heat pump, so airflow is more important than just a gas furnace. And we're three of us here from the Northeast where they put in oil furnaces and they put a 140, 1000 BTU furnace in there, and they would just dump a bunch of heat with huge supply registers and ductwork, and then the return side wouldn't be, as big, and people got used to that. And now we get into this heat pump world, and if you just slap a heat pump onto that ductwork, it's not going to work the same. It probably won't. You will probably run into some issues as far as comfort goes. So
go back and listen to our duct static episode.
Yeah.
Because if you're showing up and you're replacing a furnace or putting an A coil on it or anything, and you're not measuring duct static, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's really important.
The other thing too is, and you kind of mentioned it already when it comes to thermostat wiring. So there's some, we have cheat sheets, which is great, but there is some intricacies on the thermostat wiring at the furnace where we're actually jumping across G and Y in some 2-speed applications. And that's really just because when we're a heat pump, we need a higher airflow, right? When we're running heat pump, we need a cooling amount of airflow. So that will change compared to when you're just running your furnace. So there are some idiosyncrasies, but we have the cheat sheets for them. And, that's the stuff you want to square away to make sure that fan is operating properly too.
Yeah, so look out also for the new 454B version. It's not out yet.
No.
But they're doing some pretty cool things with it. The control box is a lot slimmer, so it doesn't take up as much room as the new one, and we're going to be changing some logic around. So look out for that. We're pretty excited about that. Sometime next year.
Yeah.
So
single board in that, right? Single board.
They're changing the boards, and I think they're going to a single board, but
so 3.
But yeah, they're still in the testing phase. We're trying to get it perfect. So.
Yeah. What I always thought was kind of interesting too is when the A2L was starting to become a reality. We all attended the ACA A2L certification, and they talked a lot about when you have case coils on top of a furnace, there's a lot of interlocks that have to be in place where the refrigerant sensor can, get tied into the furnace in order to kick the fan on in the event of a leak, things like that. Yeah. And I thought about it with our equipment because the end switch is at the control box. We have a lot of control over when that fan comes on. So we kind of get away with a little bit more leniency on that stuff.
It's built in.
Right. We get to
by
tell
accident,
it when the fan comes on. So I think it's going to make that side of it a lot more simplified than just your standard case coil because we have that control box that's determining when that fan comes on every time. No matter what, that control box tells the fan to come on, that if we detect the leak, we can kick on the fan our own. Right. We don't need those interlocks that we see with a standard case coil on a furnace.
So you're happy, Anthony?
I love it. I think every employee should have a PA coil, and I think every contractor should have a coil in their house too. Because my wife loves it, I love it. It's a wonderful system.
Well, there you go. If your wife's happy,
100%.
That's the whole thing right there.
Any issues with defrost in Chicago?
I haven't gone outside. I don't want to go outside when it's that cold, so I don't know. The unit's running and it turns back on and it heats the home, and I don't want to be one of those guys, but I kind of am a little bit. But I as long as it's comfortable, like you talked about that earlier, Paul, right? As long as my thermostat's at that 70, 71, 72, and the house is comfy, that's what my family cares about. That's what I care about, and I guess no issues.
72, that's awful. I don't let my wife turn the thermostat above 67. That's it.
Everyone makes fun of me with that. So my wife's 72 during the day, and then about 66, 67 at night for bed. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, mine is 67, 24, 7.
You don't move it at all.
No, move it at all. In the wintertime, it's 67. In the summertime, it's 67. I don't move it at all.
You make a good point, which is that the best HVAC system is one you're not thinking about.
Yeah,
it's just comfortable. So,
and think about it. You spend all this money for that peace of mind, right? I don't want to have issues. I don't want to think about it. I want to set the thermostat and forget about it and just enjoy the fact that I got a really good energy efficient, clean system and everything is working just fine.
It's nice. I used to do a lot of multi-million-dollar homes, and I used to get so aggravated because they spend all this money building this house and they go with the cheapest systems and they're poorly installed and they get the cheapest contractors, and once you have a problem, if it's installed improperly, it never gets fixed. It never gets fixed right because no one's going to start tearing down. Yeah, no one's going to start tearing down walls and drywall and opening floors. It's not. It's just sad, but it's nice. And Brent, it's a great point. You shouldn't know your system's even running. You shouldn't have to give it. You shouldn't have to give it another thought. Hey, I'm comfortable or I'm not comfortable. That's right. Anything else? Right. Anything else? Let's make sure that we don't leave anything out of the intelli-Heat, the PA, anything else.
I was going to talk about comfort balance point.
Oh yes, that's
another logic that's built into the A coil. I don't know if they're going to use that same logic in the new one, but what comfort balance point does is it's going to see if the economic balance point is working, and if it is, and the heat pump is keeping up, it'll actually knock down. Have you seen this? It'll knock down the economic balance point to a comfortable. So it's almost self-learning.
Correct.
So it has that self-learning logic in it. So it'll look at 32 degrees and says, man, this heat pump's cranking away at 32 degrees without any problem. Let's drop it down to 20 degrees, and it'll keep dropping it down in increments.
I think that's a hard thing for contractors, specifically in my market, to understand is that when they set it, say to 32 or 17, they expect that at that number, it's going to automatically turn off. But it's learning. I mean, that's why we call it the intelli-Heat. That's the reason for the name, is it's constantly learning what's happening with that system. And if it can run lower or if it can't, it's gonna self-adjust. And the challenge definitely is that you don't know what temperature it's at as a contractor. You don't know, is it at 17, 19, 27, 32? Where's this really at? Unless you completely reset the entire system to erase that logic out of there. But at the same token, we just talked about set it and forget it and just let this thing do what it needs to do. Ultimately, it wants to make sure that the home can stay comfortable, right? It doesn't want the whole house to get too cold. So that's why it's doing the self-learning. And if it can heat with the heat pump, great. If it can't and it's got to go to the gas-fired furnace, it wants to make sure that house doesn't get too cold.
So I have a question. After all it's done this learning and you lose power, does it start over or does it remember?
It does start over from the original economic balance point that you set on the controller.
Yep.
Which actually may not be a bad thing.
But it's nice. I mean, it's autonomous, so it's not something that you have to actually pay attention to. Like let's say, for example, you do choose 32 as your set point and it can't keep up due to bad ductwork design or something like that. It will adjust that balance point upwards, right? Let's say at 40 degrees it can't keep up. It's going to say, okay, 40 degrees is our new balance point. Now, if it only happens once, well, just forget about it, right? Somebody left a window open, somebody left a door open, so it can forget these anomalous events. But if it does, adjust the set point upwards, it doesn't give up there. Over time, it's going to try to work its way back down to that original set point. So it's autonomous. It runs in the background. It's not something that you consciously are aware of. And again, it's called the comfort balance point because the end goal here is let's make sure that the end user's comfortable. That's the primary goal of that balance point is optimize comfort.
All right, so are there any additional sensors they have to install, or is it simply going to use the outdoor thermistor?
There's a return temperature sensor that needs to go as high in the return as it can go. That's in a conditioned space. I had one customer here put it below the humidifier. We don't want to do that. We want to put it as high as we can. Yep. And that comes in the packaging of the coil, so it's not like you have to purchase that. The thermistors that are inside the A coil you just have to field install. So the box that Steve was talking about earlier can go up to 10 feet away from the furnace. That's all because the wiring that we provide for the sensors are all 10 feet max.
Yep.
And then there's the
NAT, the non-adjustable
thermostat. If you're going to use a Mitsubishi thermostat, you want to install that non-adjustable thermostat.
And what does that do?
So that basically overrides and says if the outdoor unit loses power, that means we're going to lose the controller. So if we have it, say, like in my house, I have an MHK2. Then MHK2 is being powered from that CN105, which is powered from the outdoor unit. So if I lose power out there, I'm going to lose that thermostat. So I need to be able to turn on emergency heat. I need to be able to turn on the gas-fired furnace. So if I install that NAT, the non-adjustable thermostat, it sets it, I believe, Brenda, 66?
Yeah,
return
it's
temperature,
in the low
66,
60s.
67.
Like a construction.
Right.
Construction.
Construction thermostat.
New construction
And then it'll put the coil in an emergency mode. So you'll have the emergency light on the box of the coil, a little red light. But then it's going to turn on the gas-fired furnace and run the gas-fired furnace until a service tech comes out and fixes the problem.
So if you're not home, you don't worry about a freeze up or anything else. And if you are home, it'll get you by the night until the guy can come out.
Yeah, and the biggest reason why that is required is freeze protection, right? If your Mitsubishi for whatever reason either loses power, like Anthony said, or goes into error for some reason, we need some way to tell the gas to come on. And remember, the end switch is the control box, so we need something at that control box to be able to kick on or energize R&W at my furnace. So we put the non-adjustable thermostat in there because it isn't being monitored all the time. It's not that if we sense a return temperature below 60, it closes, it kicks on the gas furnace. This is only when we're in error or we've lost power. Yep. So the other option, which you could do, is something has to be on R&W. You could put just a standard heat-only thermostat and wire that into R&W on the control box. Yeah. The problem with that is that homeowners sometimes will think that they can use that thermostat to turn up the temperature. The problem is if we're not in error, we're not even going to look at that.
It doesn't even, right.
So it's one of those conversations you have to have with the homeowner. Like, This is a thermostat so that you don't lose the space. You can keep it a little bit warmer if it does go into air or loses power. But it's not even going to look at this until we're in emergency mode on my control box.
Good point.
I think we've covered it all.
Done?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the important things now. So, Anthony, we're coming back out to Chicago in May. I don't want to give the exact dates because I don't want crowds following us around.
Well, he already said he was wide open. His schedule.
I know
was
his schedule's wide open. So listen,
for
we're
you
there
guys.
4 nights.
Yes, sir.
So Monday night, you're taking us to get what's this thing called?
So I'm going to
again?
give a shout out to Borinquen, which is 3800 like Western. So Western in Addison, which is the Puerto Rican restaurant.
Okay,
It's my
so-
favorite Puerto Rican
So
restaurant.
we're going there Monday night. On Tuesday night, we're getting the Italian beef sandwich.
Oh, we'll go get a nice, we'll maybe go to Johnny's Beef in North Avenue in Elmwood Park. Shout out over there. And we'll get a nice Italian beef with some Italian ice.
Okay,
It's one of those places where you can only stand and eat. There's no seats.
And then Wednesday could be pizza.
Sure.
And a mom and pop pizza place.
Sure, mom and pop pizza place. Yeah.
And then Thursday, I'm thinking, a good place to get a Chicago dog?
Oh, of course.
Like
Plenty
nothing
of
touristy, like a little mom and pop place.
We'll get you a nice dog.
Okay.
What do you like in your hot dog?
I like them just the way they come. I just give me a Chicago dog because I've mentioned this before.
Well, what's a Chicago dog? 'Cause
You got to tell them, Anthony.
Oh, boy.
because
I need to go.
it's
look it
We'll
up.
give him a second. to
so
look it up.
everything that comes in a Chicago hot dog, I don't like by itself. So last year we had somebody on from Chicago told us about the hot dog, and it was like celery salt. I think he said was a secret ingredient, but what is it, Anthony?
Yeah,
What's in a
so
hot
it
dog?
is a poppy seed bun, green sweet pickle relish, chopped white onions, tomato
Onions,
slices,
Steve.
dill pickle spear, pickled sport peppers, and celery salt.
Yeah, that's it. It's
Okay.
so good.
So
No,
was Chicago one of the places that says like absolutely no ketchup on a hot dog?
No
That's like
ketchup on hot
that's
dogs. Yes.
what do they call it? Sacrilegious in Chicago, right?
Yeah. Oh, there's a place. It's a little hot dog stand called Gene and Jude's in River Grove, and it's really famous. And right next door, they built a McDonald's. And McDonald's had to put up a sign, 35 cents a packet of ketchup, because people would go next door to go get ketchup to put on their hot dog.
Because they wouldn't give them.
They wouldn't give them. They would not give them ketchup. Well, the problem is the fries. Some people want
Sure.
ketchup for their fries,
Yep.
so they'd have to walk around this fence. They'd go to the McDonald's and they would ask for ketchup. And McDonald's finally put up a sign, 35 cents for every ketchup packet
Wow.
that they sold. It's kind of funny.
yeah. I like ketchup on a hot dog. I
do too.
I don't like sauerkraut. I'm okay with mustard, but it has to be brown mustard. I don't like yellow mustard. But the Chicago dogs, I went out there with an open mind. The first time there, I went to Portillo's. All the tourists go there. And then I think there's another one. Is it Sammy's or Big Sammy's, another chain out there? But I'm telling you, it's so good. I don't take any one of those ingredients by itself other than the hot dog, and I'm not crazy about it. Put them all together in a hot dog, and you got a dog.
Back when I was in a van in the HVAC days, I used to go to Cumbies and get their hot dogs. Cumberland Farms had hot dogs.
The belly bombs?
I think they were just called hot dogs. They were
On the
really healthy.
rollers?
Yeah, they were on the rollers with all the, the other ones, the tornadoes.
Surprised you're alive.
Yeah, but the hot dogs themselves were good, and the reason why I'd go there is because they had a little tray or like a little dish for a topping that was called Chicago Sports Relish, and it was like red peppers, banana peppers, and like pickle relish, and it was so good. I would just load it on there, and I have no idea how authentic it is, but it was
Gerald Ford was the
delicious.
president when they put the hot dogs on the cooker, rolling around.
For years, I hated relish, and I fell in love with it probably like 10 years ago.
Same
like,
here.
Throw it on it. Oh,
No,
it's fantastic.
I don't like relish. I don't like pickles, but throw the pickle on the Chicago hot dog. I'm all over that.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Anthony, thank you, sir, for joining us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you guys. Hey, really quick, shout out to all my Chicago peeps. Hopefully you guys are listening. You guys better be listening to the show. I better get some texts and some phone calls that you guys are listening. So thank you guys for having me on the show today.
We're editing that out. Yeah,
That's fantastic. I think it's the first plug that someone put at the end. That's fantastic.
Now let us know if you do get any texts from them. I am curious.
He will.
All right.
See you on the
See you on the
next one.
next one.